Every year on the 1st of January, billions of people create New Year's resolutions to help them achieve these goals in their life. By March, almost all of these goals have failed, and less than 10% of them actually make it all the way to the end of the year. But what if the problem isn't about setting goals, but instead it is around the language and the way we talk about these goals that we have wrong? For instance, if I wanted to run a marathon or I wanted to run 5Ks a day, what if the way I said it is wrong? What if instead I said, this year I want to be a runner? What if we did one better and said, this year I am going to be a runner? Today's talk is about setting goals and habits and creating an identity for yourself. A lot of people start with actions. We are trying to do that action often enough that it becomes a habit. And if you do that habit long enough, it becomes part of your identity. It becomes a person that you are. So I'm going to run 5 kilometers each day as a goal for actions. That turns into I'm somebody who regularly runs 5 kilometers until that becomes I am a runner. What if that path from actions, habits to identity is the problem? What if we started over here at identity and said, this year, I'm going to become a runner. I'm going to do that by regularly running 5 kilometers. And I'm going to achieve that by going for a 5 kilometer run today. What if we work this way? How does that change? Simon Sinek once did a talk on TED called Start With Why. It's one of the most watched TED Talks of all the TED Talks. This concept of starting with why, then the how, and then the what revolutionized the way a lot of business leaders thought about their business. They stopped selling things based on what they sell, but why they sell it. What if we applied this to habit building? I want to be a runner. The reason why is that being a runner means I'm going to live a more active lifestyle. I'm going to be healthier. It's going to lead to a habit stack where I start eating better and having better nutrition. The cardiovascular improvements to my health are going to allow me to do other active things. It's going to help me live longer, spend more time with my children, my partner, work harder at work. That's my why. How I'll do that is by running regularly. And the what? I'm going to go for a run for 5 kilometers today. That's what I'm going to do. You see how that works if we work backwards? We often start with, I'm going to go for a 5 kilometer run every day. That means I will build a habit of running regularly, which in turn, hopefully, will become a runner. It's not quite as impactful as a statement. So we're going to talk about that in more depth today's talk. My name's Stanley, and I've got 3 points that I'd like to discuss. So point number 1, most people start with actions to build habits to change their identity. And we want to flip this on its head. We want to start with identity. So what's the first step? Well, it's asking yourself, why do you want to do that? What if it is, I want to be a more competent public speaker. I want to be able to deliver a perfect keynote for 15 minutes. What if that was the what of what you want to do? Well, why do you want to do that? The first step of conquering these sorts of problems is starting with the why. Why do I want to be able to deliver great presentations? Why do I want to lose weight? Why do I want to run? Why do I want to give up drinking? Dig into that. Dig in real deep. Once you understand that, how do you go about achieving that? People who don't drink alcohol, what do they look like? What is that person? How do I become that person? What do they do instead of drinking? How does that life work? And then what? What are the boundaries? What are the safeguards that I'm going to put in place to ensure I don't drink and I become a person who doesn't drink? Same with running. Why do I want to run? What benefits does it have for me? How do I go about becoming a runner? What do runners do? How often do they run? What is the stuff that they do that sets them apart from everyone else? And then what can I do today? What's a specific thing I can go off and achieve right now? Which leads us into point 2. Change the language you use. So when I gave up drinking, I don't tell people that I'm not drinking. I say to people, I don't drink. That subtle change stops people responding. One of the hardest things about being someone who doesn't drink in social situations is being pressured to drink. Being a non-drinker, this why and why I do it, and this identity that I'm trying to create, well, part of that is being someone who doesn't drink and everyone respecting that. But how you get there is very hard. When you grow up in a society where binge drinking is the norm, you worked in a profession like hospitality, like I used to, that drinking is part of that culture, it's very hard to change that narrative. And that's where language comes in. So part of the actions was telling people I don't drink, because people hear that and think, oh, okay, he doesn't drink. I wonder why. There must be a reason. When I say I'm not drinking, why not? You should be drinking because you usually do. We're all drinking. Join in on the culture. You can use this when talking about running. You can say that you're a runner. Not that, look, I've been trying to run a bit more. I've been doing this many runs every day. That is self-defeating. People don't really buy into it. When you tell people, yeah, I'm a runner. I go for runs. This is what I do. I've been running this much every week. It starts to change the way you think about it and what other people think about it. And it's a really powerful feedback loop, because then people are like, oh, wow, cool. Okay, so you're a runner. I've been thinking about running too. Oh, great. This is what I've done. This is how you should be able to do it. You start a different tone of conversation. As opposed to if I say, look, I've been trying to run more, people might say, oh, okay, how's that going for you? Oh, look, I've missed a couple here and there, but I'm trying really hard to stick to it. That's the sort of conversation which just negatively and reinforces what it is that you do. So change your language. It's very simple, it's very effective. And I can tell you right now, for me, with all the habits that I've created and I do create, I always switch now to saying it that way. So for instance, when I tell people I get up at 5 a.m., I just say it as if that's who I am. Yeah, no, look, I always get up at 5 a.m. It's just what I do. It's part of who I am. I get up at 5 a.m. because it allows me to get more things done. I'm able to spend more time on the things I care about. I do that by ABC. And some of the actions I take immediately is going to bed earlier on time. You see what I mean? So change the language you use, it helps solidify it. And step 3 is you still need to do the work. This is a real important piece. Changing the language and flipping it on its head is still 95% of the problem, but 5% of it is still doing the work. And it is only really 5% because using your willpower to just get through and grind in the work doesn't work. That you will run out of willpower real fast. If you just say to yourself, I'm going to brute force this and I'm going to run 5 kilometers every day no matter what. And if you try to brute force it and that's it, I'm just going to stick to this what, you will burn out, you'll get bored, you'll give up. Doing the work is way more mental than it is physical. So the first things we talked about needs to happen, but at the end of the day, you still have to run 5Ks. You still have to go out and do these runs. You still have to eat less when you're trying to lose weight. If you're not drinking, you still have to not drink. You still have to make sure that you're setting yourself up in an environment that doesn't promote the drinking. If you're trying to grow your business by 10x, you still have to do the work, the sales, the business growth, the business development, the production of whatever the good is, the delivery of the service. You still have to do all of that stuff at that extra level. And often people don't realize how much they're getting themselves into when they're setting these goals. But being a runner or running 5Ks every day are two different things. Because a runner can go a week without running, but they're still a runner. Someone who's been forced to run 5Ks every day and misses a week have failed their challenge. So you still have to do the work, it still has to be done, but starting with why allows you an identity shift. Once you change your personality, then doing the things you need to do become easy. The way I first thought about this was the things we all take for granted that we do. If you play an instrument, for instance, right, a guitar, piano, whatever it may be, you are a musician. You might not be a paid musician or whatever, but you can play this guitar, right? That's your identity. Now, someone who's trying to learn to play the guitar, they're not a guitarist. And so they have to start these actions, right? To start learning, they do basic scales, they get lessons from the instructor, and they slowly learn these actions that turn to habits that change their identity. But what if instead they said, I'm going to be a guitarist. I am a guitarist. Here's my guitar and I play the guitar. And then they go about figuring out how they do that and what actions they need to take to be successful. The mindset shift there helps change the trajectory of where they will end up. And it's a very subtle difference, but it's one a lot of people miss. It's one I use constantly to keep to my challenges or my New Year's resolutions that I set myself. There are things that can blow this out of the water. Last year's pandemic was definitely one of those. It blew a lot of my routines out of place. But this year, when things come back to normal, it was very easy for me to get back into routine because I was always someone who didn't drink. I was always someone who always went to the gym. I was always someone who always woke up at 5 a.m. So these habits that I had, they just started again because that's my identity, it's who I am, that's what I do. I knew why, so the what was so easy to go back to doing. I knew what it is that I had to do, and I wanted to because I understood the why. So to summarize, guys, actions that lead to habits, that leads to identity, needs to be flipped on its head, and instead identity leads to habit formation, which leads to actions that you can take today. Start with your why, figure out the how, and do the what. Thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate it, guys. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like, hit subscribe, hit the notification bell if you want to see next week's videos. I'd love to see you there, and give us some feedback and tell us what your New Year's resolution was this year and whether or not you're still at it, or have you already given up? Is it time to restart it? Until next time, guys, thank you very much. We'll see you then. Cheers.